All right. We are back with another one, and this time we're going to talk a little bit about my support character, which is a curse bot, basically. And what we have been doing and working on here is something that I haven't really made before within PoE, but it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Oradin from Diablo 2, just in terms of idea. So that's basically what I've somewhat based this off of. I've chosen to go with the Chronomancer for this. Basically, I was kind of split between the Blood Mage and the Chronomancer, and I'm currently leveling a Blood Mage to kind of test out the differences and how well they work in comparison to each other. But as of right now, I'm really enjoying myself playing on this character. Now, we are really close to being geared out, still a little bit away. Like, if we look at our resistances and stuff, we are capped out, and that is all good. We are sitting on 9.5k ES at the moment, and we do have Grim Feast as well, so we actually can get up to around 19.2k or something like that. And that's pretty decent. You can take pretty much any hit in the game with that type of ES. And I've been having a good time with this. But let's go over some gear first and foremost, and I'll kind of take it a little bit slow here. So we have all evasion or all energy shield bases here. And most of it is decent bases, right? Like, it's the higher tier bases, so that's why we are sitting at that much energy shield. But first and foremost, we have our gloves. Important parts about the gloves would be having resistances, life, and energy shield, basically. Our belt is the same type of setup. We have resistance, life, and mana, which is the important parts. Our boots, kind of the same setup again. Movement speed, which is very important. I really want to get a better pair of boots with more movement speed, because you want to be the guy in front. So you do not want to be hanging backwards, right? Like, you don't want to be behind everybody else. You want to be the first person to encounter an enemy, because then you curse everything around you, and it makes it so much easier for everybody coming up behind you to kill it. But again, movement speed, life, mana, and then of course resistances to cap out our resistances. Since we aren't able to use rare rings, this is basically our main area of gaining resistances is from these three items, right? Like, we do have a little bit of lightning res on our amulet, and we do have fire resistance on our helmet, and we do have one resist gem or rune inside of our armor currently. I do want to get a way better armor than this. I preferably want to get one that has more maximum life converted to energy shield by the corruption. So I do have one of those bases with 59% on another character, but I do want to get one of those for this character as well. And I also kind of want to be able to take out a coal ruin, but I can't do that at this very moment because I'm not fully tapped out on the cold resistance. It is what it is. Our shield is maximum ES and the 2 spell and then energy shield recharge. That's basically the mods that we want off the shield. It would have been much nicer if we had a much higher amount of ES here. I don't really care for the spell damage or the mana. All I really want is a high ES base with a lot of ES on here and +2 to skills, and preferably energy shield recharge rate, right? So that would be the main features of your shield. Now for the amulet, we are using again an ES based amulet with life, spirit, and spell skills, which is the important part here. Of course, if we could have had % ES instead of evasion rating, that would have been absolutely phenomenal. And if we could have had all resistance instead of lightning resistance, that would have been absolutely perfect. but it is what it is. We'll have to settle for this at the very moment. The helmet is ES again. Life gives us more ES, some rarity, and some fire resistance because we need it. Then we have our weapon, which is a scepter, because we want to get as much spirit as we possibly can out of our main hand here. And of course we also kind of want to get a decent amount of stats that provides benefits to allies in your presence, and you also want to have increased presence area of effect, so that way you widen your presence, right? Like your area of the presence, what's considered being in your presence, because standard is like 6 meters or something, which is really nothing. So you definitely want to try and min-max and get as much presence area as you can, just to benefit as many people as you can. We are running Malice at the moment, which does provide us with critical weakness, so it does apply that to enemies. Sometimes the enemies will be far away, and you still want to apply your critical weakness, but if the enemies is too far away from you, the other way we can apply it is through Eye of Winter. So that's the reason why we use Eye of Winter, which is the only real attack we use. From time to time we will use Essence Drain as well, just to spread some hinder, or like to hinder enemies, right? And we also have our Sigil of Power Staff as a second hand, so whenever we are running with people who are using spells or elemental attacks, then we put down our Sigil of Power wherever they are at, so that they basically get to stand in it. If we're fighting like an elite or a boss or something like that, this is where you want to put this down, in the area where the elemental allies are, right? And on top of that we have the skill gems, which, let's start from the top here. I haven't really added anything to Malice at the moment, and I still haven't given any of this quality, so we do need to quality up pretty much everything here. For Sigil of Power we have less cost, we have more skill effect duration, so it stays out for longer, and then we have cast speed to just cast it a little bit faster. Then we have Temporal Rift, which basically can teleport us backwards. So whenever we are moving, you notice that it'll leave behind this little imprint on the ground of your character. And once we do use Temporal Rift, it'll basically teleport us back to the last one of them. So that one, right? Until it disappears. And that in turn will reset our life and mana and all of these things. And then we have Time Freeze, and Time Freeze is basically our main, you could say, save other people's skill. So what you kind of want to do when you're running with other people is you want to keep an eye out on your group, at the same time as you of course keep an eye out on your own life, but you kind of want to have one eye on the group, and in case you see somebody lose a lot of health and go super low, that's when you want to really hit the Time Freeze immediately, to basically freeze everything around the area and then allow for the ally who is in trouble to get out of trouble. That's how I personally use it, or for instance against a boss or something like that. This one we get Arcane Surge from, we have Wind Wave, and we have Strip Away, and we have Unbreakable. Then on our Time Snap we don't currently have any supports that's really worth it at the moment. This is basically, it allows you to reset all your cooldowns on all your skills, and that counts for freeze time. So let's say you use freeze time, it gives you a cooldown. Now if I press my Time Snap, that cooldown will immediately disappear. Boom, there you go, and it's gone. and you can then apply time freeze right away, and that is just very functional in a boss fight. It's also very functional if you are fighting certain type of maps that has a high difficulty, and that is just very useful. We are using Grim Feast with some clarity, some mana regen, since we aren't really getting any mana regen from the tree, or barely any. This was like one way to kind of solve that issue, because we are using a bit of mana when we throw our Eye of Winter, or when we put down our Sigil of Power, or if we use our Essence Drain. We kind of do use mana, so we want a little bit of mana regen. It doesn't have to be insane or anything. And then we got Blink. Basically, Blink is just to keep up with everybody. It's easier than roll or dodging. I use it to like make sure I'm in front of people. So I just blink in front of them and then run into the pile of enemies, basically, first as the first person. And in Blink we have reduced cooldown, and we have energy barrier. And for our Eye of Winter, which we basically use because it inflicts critical weakness on hit. So in case like an enemy is far away and my presence, or I'm not close enough to them for them to be count as being in my presence, I'll hit them with the Eye of Winter. And then we get to the basically the skill it's all based around, right? So Blasphemy is what allows me to apply the curses, and basically I always run Enfeeble and Temporal Chains, so those two will always stay in here, along with the Magnified Effect. They'll always stay in here as well. So these three are staying. The last two are interchangeable, basically, right? So we have our Hypothermia and we have Conductivity as of this moment. But we also have Flammability, we have Vulnerability, and we have Despair. And this skill allows us to hold the cursed gems inside of the skill, even though we're not activating, we're not using it, we're not activating it or anything. It's just to save the space and have it all neat right next to each other. So if I'm in a map and I play with someone who aren't, let's say we play with somebody who's using fire and chaos damage instead, then what I'll do is I'll just quickly go like this, swap them out like that, and we just continue. And we can do that while we're running, right? Like we can just swap things out, and then you're good to go, right? Like you're just swapping the curses out as it fits to the other party members. Depending on the other party members, that's what depends on which curse you want to swap in. The only two ones that always stay in is Enfeeble and Temporal Change. Those two will always stay in here. The rest of them are interchangeable, right? So you have, and the way I set it up with this skill is basically, as I said, you'll never actually physically use this, so you do not have to do that. You could easily just have them sitting like this, and it would be no problem at all. And then you just pick them and put them in there. I just did this to kind of like take up less space, right? And in case I do find something I want to add, I have more room to add it, so it won't be an issue. Now, for our stats real quick, we are stacking mostly intelligence, but we do need some type of strength, and we do need some type of dexterity in order to use all of our support gems and everything, so do pay attention to that. Now for the tree, this tree does look a little weird, and we're certainly not fully done with it yet. The last cherry on top, you could say, is we are getting our skill duration effect right now. So this is basically what the last portion of points I'm gonna get is gonna be spent on. I'm currently level 89, almost actually level 90. And now I'm just investing into making my time freeze be able to freeze as much time as possible. So we're gonna take this, we're gonna go for this one, and we're gonna go for this one up here. And once we have all of those, we should be able to freeze time for quite a while. And yeah, that is pretty much it for the skills. So if we talk about the tree a little bit, what I kind of went for is gem slots and energy shield, and of course anything related to curses in terms of increased effects of curses, or not that one, this one, increased effect of curses. This one is kind of nice too. There is definitely could be an idea in using this. I haven't really decided if I want to yet, but it depends on how well the time freeze works with the first set. And once we build on that, I will then figure out if I rather want to get this or I want to get more time freeze, basically, right? Now we have all, like, for the start point, I've gone for ES. We don't need damage on this build whatsoever. All we really want is safety and curse effects, and we want some stun threshold and freeze threshold, basically, right? There is one keystone that's absolutely necessary, and basically you have to use this, is Whisper of Doom, which lets you apply another curse. And to finish out the gear here, I didn't talk about the rings yet because I wanted to wait for this specific moment. So with this, we are allowed to apply an additional curse. That means we can now apply 2 curses. And with these unique rings, they allow you to apply another curse. So with wearing 2 of those, we can now apply 4 curses all at once to an enemy. And that's basically the idea behind this, is we want to apply 4 curses to every enemy in our presence, and this is the way to go about it. Of course, we went for this one for increased curse effect, and we got our stun threshold from this node, and we got our freeze immunity from this node. And then of course we are moving towards a jewel socket right here. We are going to grab this, and then, as I said, depending on how well the freeze is, the freeze time, we'll probably grab this or this one up here, depending. And then we'll try and go for this one if it's needed, and if not, we'll take some more effect of curses. And to go over our gems or jewels, basically the most important parts about the jewels is increased curse effect, increased area of effect of curses, and increased effect of auras. That is like your number one set of mods you want off of your jewels. If you can add percent in maximum energy shield here, that would be just amazing, right? Like that would be the cherry on top. That is gonna be a fairly expensive jewel in my opinion. I'm not sure, I haven't looked it up, but I feel like that would be very expensive. But as you see, we have gone for as many of these jewel sockets as we possibly can. We have one here, there, we have here, we have here, we have here. We're taking this one, we got that one, and we got this one over here. So as much of those as you can stack, all based around curses, basically. That's about it, man. And this build just functions immaculate once you are fully set up, and once you're running with a group of people who do really good damage. This is beautiful, and it's just so enjoyable, and I had a really good time playing this. Last but not least, I'll of course leave some gameplay in here kind of to show off what it looks like when you're playing it, and also kind of to give you an idea of what a boss fight would look like. And this is of course all done in T15 corrupted maps, pretty juicy maps, and this is all done with players who were fairly high levels and fairly good geared, so it's gonna look very easy. Of course in the beginning it's a little bit of a different story, but once you get to this early end game version of the build, then it feels exceptionally good. But yeah, I appreciate everybody for watching. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good jazz, and I will catch you all in the next one.